Hi, this is Mr. Pinky, and this is my video preview of Dragon Age 2. Please note that all footage is from the demo, and it is also quite violent, so viewer beware. The main thing that you'll notice upon booting up Dragon Age 2 is just how much more playable it is than the first. The first one, you click on an enemy, and your guy would kind of take it as a, okay, I'll go over there eventually, guys. But, he wouldn't rush into the fight. He would just kind of screw around for a while, and honestly, it was annoying. Now, when you tell somebody to do something, they do it, which means that the game runs a lot faster, meaning that the pause function will probably get a lot more use on the higher difficulty settings. I mean, it was useful before, but now it's completely necessary, because you're constantly issuing new orders, casting abilities. The one interesting thing, the game is actually more ability heavy than it used to be, which is really saying something, because before you had like tons of abilities. Now you're not going to have as many, but they're much more important. They also hold up over the experience more the entire game, because now individual abilities have upgrades. So you're not going to start with an ability and then quickly find it completely useless, because you're going to be able to upgrade it. Like you're going to be able to make your fireball bigger, or you're going to be able to make that mighty blow thing that the warrior has hit more enemies at the same time. It really improves the way you interact with the game, because instead of having to constantly learn new abilities, you're going to be able to play as your character throughout the entire experience. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's a huge improvement. This is at the very start of the demo, where you're starting out with fully leveled up abilities, and as you can see, it's quite powerful. This is the new Cone of Cold spell, for instance, which is basically brutal murder. That is the Mind Blast spell, which I'm not really sure I understand the purpose of, because it's like Fireball, only kind of dumb. But it's like anything, all the spells have a use. It's just figuring out exactly what they are and putting them in. I actually have to say that the mage was the most fun class to play before, but it's probably the least fun now, simply because they put so much time and energy into actually improving the other two classes. The warrior is capable of taking on multiple foes at the same time, doing massive amounts of damage. The rogue can only really attack one guy at once. He does have a couple crowd stunning spells or abilities. Like now he has Miasmic Flask, which used to be a selectable, or not a selectable, a craftable item before. Now it is a ability with cooldown, which, to be perfectly honest, is probably going to clean up the inventory so much that I'm not going to complain. And just in general, the other two classes are so much more brutal and like fun to play that it's hard to, I don't know, really care about the mage anymore. So, this is the warrior, and his job is basically to run into the middle of the room and stab everyone in the face, which obviously is kind of entertaining. I have to say, though, it does still feel like it's lacking something. His skill set is so focused on crowd control and keeping it tanking, that I didn't really feel like there is DPS options. Essentially, you're always... You could do a lot of damage, but you're always attracting attention, keeping it off the rogues and mages. So I suppose, the warrior still isn't great, but at least he is better. The graphical presentation is also hugely improved. The textures are sharper, the lighting is much, much better, the spell and weapon effects are better, the voice acting is better, the sound is better. It's a pleasure to play. And this is on what are essentially console settings. This isn't on DirectX 10 or DirectX 11 settings, which PC users will get when it releases on March 8th. To be perfectly honest, I'm probably going to upgrade my computer just for it. I'm that much of a nerd. This is the rogue, which is the class that received the most overhaul. In fact, he's actually fun to play now. Before, he was really lame. He was essentially a warrior that sucked. Now, he can perform backflips, incredibly powerful attacks on single targets. He can do a backstab, that thing, where essentially he throws down a smoke capsule, just reappears behind the enemy, and, like, you know, stabs them. It's really fun. And the rogue is just so much more hands-on now. You're always casting abilities, you're chewing through enemies. He even has an evade skill now, which isn't common in action RPGs. Essentially, it reduces your aggro to 0, so enemies will essentially retarget after you use it, which is very important for rogues because you can't really stay in the middle of a fight. You can't tank at all as a rogue. You just chew up damage, and you can do it somewhat in this scenario here. Like, I backflipped out of the way there. But for the most part, this is like the start of the game where you're just playing with all your abilities and like murdering everything. But you know, later on, the evade and just movement skills become a lot more important. Archery has also received a massive overhaul. It's actually fun. The abilities are a lot more useful, so you won't feel screwed if you stick a person onto archery. Also, archery actually seems to have the highest damage output of any of the classes. You know, you select archery, that their health goes down in like 2-3 shots, and they're gonna die. As you'll see here, you just chew through the guys, which is a huge improvement over before, where you basically just like shot them until they were a pincushion, at which point you still hadn't done very much damage. So at this point, Dragon Age 2 is very promising. We'll have to see how it holds up over the long term, as Dragon Age 1 did have some problems with pacing. You just do so much fighting it got tiresome. But ultimately, this is shaping up very well. I will try to have a review up of the game as quickly as possible after launch. This is Mr. Pinky, and thanks for watching.